the Roman Empire, a name that echoes through history. At its peak, the Roman Empire stretched from the misty shores of Britain to the scorching sands of Syria. But empires, like all things, have limits. These were the frontiers of Rome, and among the most fascinating was the Lower German limes. The limes, a Latin term for limit or boundary, marked the edge of Roman control in Germania. It was a line drawn along rivers and across hills, demarcating Roman territory from the lands of the unconquered Germanic tribes. This frontier was not a single wall, like Hadrian's wall in Britain. Instead, it was a network of fortifications, watchtowers, roads, and settlements stretching for hundreds of miles. The Lower German limes followed the course of the Rhine, a mighty river that flows from the Alps to the North Sea. The Rhine served as a natural barrier, a watery moat separating the Roman province of Germania, inferior, from the lands of the Germanic tribes. The Romans recognized the strategic importance of the river, using it as a transportation route for troops and supplies. They also built numerous forts and watchtowers along its banks to control movement and deter raids. The terrain along the Lower German limes was varied, shaping the nature of the conflict and the lives of the people who lived along this frontier. It was here, along the banks of the Rhine, that the Roman Empire clashed with the Germanic tribes, shaping the destiny of both. By the time the Lower German limes was established in the 1st century AD, the Roman Empire had reached the pinnacle of its power. It was a time known as the Pax Romana, a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity within the empire's vast borders. Roman legions, renowned for their discipline and efficiency, had vanquished enemies from the Atlantic to the Euphrates. Emperors ruled from a magnificent capital at Rome, their authority unchallenged within the civilized world. This was the world that the Romans sought to protect and project with the establishment of frontiers like the Lower German limes. The Pax Romana, while a time of great prosperity and stability within the Roman Empire, was not without its challenges. The empire faced constant pressure on its borders from tribes and peoples eager to claim a share of Roman wealth or to resist Roman rule. Maintaining the vast Roman Empire required a massive military force and a constant expenditure of resources. Roman legions were stationed along the frontiers, engaged in a never-ending cycle of patrols, fortifications, and occasional punitive expeditions against those who dared to challenge Roman authority. The cost of maintaining this military presence was immense, but the Romans believed it was a necessary price to pay for the security and prosperity of the empire. The Romans were willing to negotiate with and even incorporate some barbarian groups into the empire, offering them Roman citizenship and the benefits of Roman rule in exchange for their loyalty and military service. Among the most persistent challenges to Roman power in the north were the Germanic tribes. These were not a single, unified people, but a collection of diverse groups with their own customs, languages, and allegiances. The Romans had attempted to conquer and incorporate Germania into the empire, most notably under the Emperor Augustus in the late 1st century BC. However, these efforts were met with fierce resistance, culminating in the disastrous Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 9 AD, where 3 Roman legions were ambushed and destroyed by a coalition of Germanic tribes. In the aftermath of Teutoburg Forest, the Romans adopted a more defensive posture in Germania, focusing on securing their existing borders and controlling the flow of people and goods across the Rhine. The Lower German limes snaked its way across Europe, but its heart was the Rhine River. For the legions stationed along the limes, the Rhine was more than just a geographical boundary. It was their lifeline. Supplying the legions stationed along the limes was a monumental task, requiring a steady stream of food, equipment, and reinforcements. Large, flat-bottomed boats, designed to navigate the river's currents, ferried supplies upstream from Roman settlements in Gaul. These vessels, laden with grain, weapons, and building materials, were a common sight along the Rhine. For the soldiers stationed on this distant frontier, the arrival of a supply ship from the south was a tangible reminder that they were not forgotten outposts of a vast empire. The Rhine, however, was not a placid highway. The terrain surrounding it varied considerably, influencing Roman military strategy and shaping the very nature of the limes. In some areas, the river flowed through broad, fertile plains, ideal for agriculture and settlement. However, in other areas, the Rhine cut through dense forests and rolling hills, a landscape that favored the ambush tactics of the Germanic tribes. The Romans adapted their tactics accordingly, relying on a network of watchtowers and fortified outposts to maintain vigilance and react quickly to threats. Where the terrain favored the enemy, the Romans constructed more formidable defenses, creating strong points from which to project their power. Across the Rhine lay Germania, a land shrouded in mystery and danger for the Romans. This vast region, stretching from the Rhine to the Elbe and beyond, was home to a patchwork of Germanic tribes. The Romans viewed Germania with a mixture of fear and fascination, its dense forests and unpredictable rivers seeming to embody the wildness that lay beyond the fringes of their civilization. Some tribes were hostile to the Romans, seeing them as invaders and oppressors. Others were willing to trade and even ally themselves with the empire, recognizing the potential benefits of such a relationship. This unpredictability made the Lower German limes a particularly volatile frontier, requiring the Romans to be constantly on guard, ready to respond to threats from across the Rhine. The Roman legions, those disciplined and brutally effective fighting units, were the backbone of the Lower German limes. Tasked with guarding the frontier against incursions, their presence was a constant reminder of Roman might. These soldiers, often recruited from distant corners of the empire, endured harsh conditions and the ever-present threat of attack to maintain Rome's grip on the region. Legionaries were stationed in forts and fortlets, strategically positioned along the Rhine and its tributaries. These fortifications, ranging in size and strength, served as bases of operation for patrols, training grounds for soldiers, and safe havens in case of attack. In addition to their military duties, legionaries were also responsible for constructing and maintaining the fortifications, roads, and other infrastructure necessary for the functioning of the limes. The fortifications of the Lower German limes were a testament to Roman military engineering. These were not simply crude barriers, but carefully designed and constructed strongholds intended to withstand attack and project Roman power. The materials used varied depending on local availability, with some forts built primarily of wood and earth, while others boasted impressive stone walls and towers. Inside its walls, one would find barracks for the soldiers, stables for the horses, workshops for the craftsmen, and storehouses for food, weapons, and other supplies. High walls, often reinforced with ditches and ramparts, made a direct assault difficult. Towers placed at regular intervals along the walls provided a commanding view of the surrounding countryside, allowing defenders to rain down missiles on attackers. While the Lower German limes was primarily a defensive frontier, it was not a static one. The Roman legions stationed there were not content to simply sit behind their walls and wait for an attack. They conducted regular patrols into the surrounding territory, both to gather intelligence on enemy movements and to assert Roman authority. These patrols could range from small scouting parties to larger-scale expeditions involving hundreds or even thousands of soldiers. Their purpose was to deter raids, suppress rebellions, and remind the local population of Roman power. The history of the Lower German limes is punctuated by periods of relative peace and bursts of intense conflict. The Lower German Limes, once a vibrant frontier bristling with military might, has long since fallen silent. The legions have marched away, the watchtowers stand empty, and the forts lie in ruins. Yet, beneath the soil, the past whispers its secrets. For centuries, the limes lay forgotten, swallowed by the earth and time. But with the advent of modern archaeology, this forgotten frontier began to reveal its secrets. These discoveries are not merely academic curiosities, they are tangible connections to our shared human history, offering a window into a world vastly different from, yet in some ways, strikingly similar to, our own. Among the most evocative discoveries from the Lower German limes are the personal belongings of the soldiers. Everyday objects shed light on the lives of these men far from home. Leather sandals speak of the long distances covered by Roman soldiers. Gaming pieces hint at moments of leisure. Letters offer glimpses into the thoughts and feelings of soldiers. Some letters express longing for home. Others boast of victories won. These fragments remind us that the soldiers were individuals with hopes, fears, and dreams. The archaeological record of the Lower German limes is not solely comprised of weapons and military infrastructure. It also reveals glimpses of the daily lives of the people who lived in the shadow of the Roman legions. Settlements sprang up near the forts, inhabited by traders, craftsmen, and the families of soldiers. These communities, a mix of Roman citizens and local inhabitants, created a vibrant cultural blend along the frontier. Remains of houses, shops, and bathhouses provide evidence of a more settled existence. Pottery shards, imported from distant corners of the Roman Empire, attest to a thriving trade network. Jewelry, crafted from precious metals and colorful glass, speaks to a desire for adornment and self-expression, even in this remote outpost of the empire. The limes was a place where cultures intersected, sometimes clashing, sometimes blending. Roman coins, found in circulation alongside Germanic artifacts, suggest a degree of economic integration. Cemeteries, where Roman burial practices mingled with local traditions, provide a stark reminder of the shared mortality of all who lived and died along this frontier. The Lower German limes, in life and in death, reflects the complexities of cultural exchange and the enduring impact of the Roman Empire on the ancient world. For the local inhabitants of Germania, the arrival of the Roman legions brought profound changes. Some tribes cooperated, seeking trade benefits, while others resisted, clinging to their traditional ways. The Pax Romana offered stability and protection, but also brought burdens like taxes and labor for construction. The presence of Roman soldiers offered protection, but also potential for abuse. Despite the inherent tensions between conqueror and conquered, the Lower German limes became a zone of cultural exchange and, in some cases, syncretism. Roman goods and ideas flowed into Germania, influencing local art, architecture, and even religious practices. Germanic recruits, serving in the Roman army, brought back to their communities Roman customs and ideas, further blurring the lines between the two cultures. Trade, that engine of interaction, played a crucial role in bridging the cultural divide. Roman merchants, eager for slaves, furs, and amber, ventured into Germania, establishing trading posts and forging relationships with local tribes. Germanic traders, in turn, journeyed to Roman settlements, bringing with them goods and knowledge from beyond the frontier. This exchange of goods and ideas led to a blending of cultures along the limes. Roman pottery, glass beads, and bronze ornaments found their way into Germanic households, while Germanic craftsmanship, such as intricate metalwork and wood carving, was appreciated by Roman consumers. This fusion of Roman and Germanic traditions is evident in the archaeological record, reflecting the complex interactions that characterized life on the frontier. The Lower German limes stands as a testament to the reach and ambition of the Roman Empire. It was a dynamic frontier where Roman power met diverse cultures. the legions who patrolled its length, the merchants who crossed its boundaries, and the families who made their homes in its shadow. Today, the archaeological remains offer a window into this vanished world. From the imposing ruins of Roman forts to the intimate details of daily life revealed through artifacts, the Lime speaks to us across the centuries.